Good morning and welcome back to another episode of the hit TV show Armageddon. On a side note, I would like to apologize to the sophomores who won't see this anyway because they're in prayer service. And they won't see the rest of our episodes because they'll be in prayer service, but that's okay. Sophomores are worthless. I'm Mike Quinlan, and today we'll be discussing an issue on everybody's minds, the war in Iraq. We don't have a guest today, so we both agreed to do this freehand and let the fists fall where they may. Let the chips fall where they may. I'd like to lead off. It should come as no surprise to anyone that I am in favor of the war in Iraq and continued U.S. involvement. There are a couple things that I would like to point out. We have been victorious. We have also freed the Iraqi people from tyranny and provided for them the opportunity to govern themselves and their destinies. The terrorists we fight in the streets of Baghdad are a perfect example of why we still need to be there. Because the terrorists want nothing more than to see us run a la Vietnam and take over and set up a terrorist state. We also need to increase the troop levels in Iraq to once and for all rid the surrounding neighborhoods of embedded terrorists. And finally, we as a country need to reunite behind the common goal of making this world safer. With that, I turn it over to Kevin.
In all honesty, Mike, the last point there that you made, that we need to reunite as a country to try and make the world safer, is probably the only thing I agree with. As one of the few things I agree with you then. Yes, we did free the country. Yes, we are. We did install a democracy, but at what price? The Iraqis have spoken. They have elected a majority Shiite Congress. They are working right now to try and make self-government go. And I think we need to recognize that they are working to try and make themselves govern, and we need to the fullest extent, we need to have the Iraqis take control of the country.
The problem here is that you can't let the Iraqis take control if all the Iraqis are going to do is let terrorists move back in and take over the country, as in terrorists from Iran, who would like nothing more than to have basically Iran Part 2 and set up a terrorist nation. I mean, what you cannot have here is you cannot say you want to make the world a safer place and then sit on your hands while terrorists move into a Middle Eastern nation that has been torn apart.
I don't exactly.
Now, you say that we have set up a democracy in Iraq. We have set up a working democracy in Iraq as proven by these successful elections. Now, the next step from here is to continue to make Iraq secure. You cannot have the Iraqi government by themselves on their own if they do not have the capabilities to stay on their own. If you're just going to let Iranian terrorists move in and take over, you essentially have lost 3,000 brave U.S. troops' lives for nothing. And that is what many of those who are in Congress, many in the media want us to do, and we are not going to do that. I think that our president has made that clear.
Well, my question is if you have done so much if we are wanting to increase the troop levels now, why didn't we do that at the beginning? Why didn't we listen to the planning that said that we needed about 500,000 troops to go into Iraq to completely secure?
Well, I would disagree that you need 500,000 troops to secure Iraq.
I don't know the exact number,
but it was good Marines.
But it was much larger. I sort of lost my train of thought.
I think the planning that went into this was planning for a different situation. You know, we always talk about certain outcomes and certain predictions and that sort of thing. And I think no one really could have predicted that in the end we would have Iran sending terrorists with bombs and guns and that sort of thing just to kill Iraqis. I mean, what they have tried to begin is a civil war. Now, many in the media will say we have a civil war, but
we did know that there is this massive Sunni versus Shiite divide in Islamic politics and in Islamic nations.
But that doesn't have to stand in the way of security and peace. Now, another thing that we'll touch on here is that a lot of this is allowed by fanaticism within this religion. And now, what I'm saying here is that perhaps one of the things we also couldn't have dealt with or couldn't have foreseen is the fact that even without the oppression of Saddam Hussein, that these Iraqi people would still be fighting amongst themselves for, supremacy, which I think is something that we as Americans wouldn't see because we as Americans prefer individual freedom. And so if we had individual freedom, most of us would be content with that.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't exactly think that, some of what you're saying is sort of reducing it to the most black and white terms. I mean, Iran sending money. I mean, a lot of countries are sending money. We're sending money behind the troops. I mean,
right, and so a lot of other countries are sending terrorists, which, I mean, is just it merely encapsulates the problem that we have.
Most of the terrorists are homegrown. Most of the insurgents are Iraqis.
I would tend to disagree with you on that. I think if there was a story in the news a couple days ago about terrorists who were dressed in United States soldiers' uniforms, who had IDs, who had trucks, and that sort of thing, and went in and massacred in a sneak attack.
But I mean, that's standard guerrilla warfare.
Well, I don't. But that could not have been made possible without outside influence. Is my point here. But if you keep telling me that these terrorists are going to be sent in anyway, and that all this we should have foreseen, I mean, it's wrong. There is no way we could have foreseen that, the Middle East would have gone, oh, well, look, Iraq's now somewhere where we can just send terrorists to get the United States out. And I think that the only way to combat that is by continuing our stay in Iraq.
Well, the question is that you're bringing up there is, who do they want to make them secure? And my opinion is they would rather have the Iraqis making them secure.
Well, obviously.
They'd rather have their own people making them secure rather than what they see as a foreign undue influence pushing their will and their standards on them. They'd rather see Iraqi-led, Iraqi-trained forces.
Well, obviously,
right now we're training the Iraqis, and I think that's very fine and good.
We want to see Iraqi-led forces, but the Iraqi forces are not ready yet, and they will not be ready until the United States. We continue to train them, we continue to fund them, we do not pull out of Iraq. We increase the troop level there so that we can do our part while training the Iraqis to fight and defend their own country.
My view on it is we should start redeploying troops to areas such as Afghanistan that need it the most. We should start redeploying them even to...
Are you saying that Afghanistan needs more troops than Iraq does?
Afghanistan is at a breaking point right now. The Taliban is coming in right now. We've pulled so many troops out of Afghanistan.
The Afghanistan government that is in place is secure. The fact that you hear about the Taliban now is an attempt by the media to get you to focus away from Iraq. And the fact that we are winning in Iraq. Casualties are a fact of war. Okay? Let's just get that out there right now. Casualties are a fact of war, and when you're in war, people are going to die. Now, unfortunately, that has to be our troops as well as the opponents, our enemies who happen to be terrorists because they don't wear uniform. Okay? Now, by drawing attention away from the fact that even though we are losing lives in Iraq, which is what happens in war, we are still winning. We are still making that place secure. We are still providing for the people there the opportunity to govern themselves and their destinies, which is the end goal and end result.
Well, how can Iraq be secure if there are truck bombs that kill 150 or more people like happened on, I believe it was Sunday?
You increase the troop levels and you rid those areas of terrorists. Well, that's the only way to do it. And if you just sit back and you just be content with holding certain parts of Iraq, then you will have a divided Iraq. But if you unite the country in security, then the country will be united. It will be secure. But if you sit back and continue to have a few troops here and a few troops there holding certain strategic positions, that'll be fine and dandy, but what you'll be losing is the united security, which is what they need. And the only way to do that is to increase the troop level and, not give up on the Iraqis.
All right, so my summation is we've done what we originally went in there to do, and that was to get Saddam Hussein out. Now we're just staying in there. The reasons have changed about 10 times that I can remember, and essentially we've gotten into another country's civil war. I mean, I'm not going to pull out the V word in reference to it, but I mean, personally I think that we need to keep troops in there, but we need to redeploy to other areas of the world that need it most, and we need to keep training the Iraqis to fight their own battles.
Well, that's all the time we have for this morning. We thank you for joining us here on Armageddon. I'm Mike Quinlan, and we'll see you next Tuesday, same time, same place. We apologize to the sophomores that our broadcast will be during your prayer service, but you're worthless anyway. Do it.
This one, I'm just going to leave a recording. Hold on.
Good.
But should we check the lights? Because, I mean, there's a lot more so, like, what point would you...
That's the way it looks. That's just the way it looks.